Hello, hello. Welcome back to another video, my friends. Good to see you all here today. Another decent day of results in the Premier League. Another day of absolute, utter, unbelievable chaos in the Premier League. As per usual, it is easily one of the most interesting seasons I think we've ever seen in terms of Premier League results. And it makes for an incredibly unpredictable year where it's really hard to draw conclusions about practically anything. But that also means, of course, as it were, it is a year of absolute opportunity. The table has been flipped on its head even in the last few days. Everton now up to 5th in the league. When did that happen? Villa, after their start, in 3rd, 3 points off league leaders Arsenal, who have bottled as per usual. Crazy stuff. Chelsea, Everton, Palace, Sunderland, Liverpool, Spurs, Brighton, Newcastle United separated by 3 points, all of them. Crazy, crazy league, to be quite honest. Like, it's a crazy league. We'll talk about United, of course, because we once again have an opportunity, obviously, as we do, like, regularly, to move up the table, to do something, to beat the worst ever team in the Premier League at this point. I think that's correct, right? Wolves have the worst ever team, worst ever point total at this point in the season. Is that accurate, or am I wrong on that? I thought that was the number. Worst ever points total in the league at this point in the season, or at least thereabouts. And it would, at the moment, pending results for Brighton and Palace, put United up into 5th. Which, again, does it matter? No, because the league position is just insane. It's going to change so much. You really have to string a few wins together to do anything at all. And if you do, you could separate yourself from the pack. And that really scares me because United have screwed this up so many times. I'm terrified. I am terrified of this game. And let me make this clear in the beginning, all right? Let me make this clear in the beginning because I am pretty bored of talking about Amorim on that front.
To me. Any good news on Bale and Semenyo?
We're gonna get to that, even though you were just talking to me in the Patreon chat anyway. We're gonna get to that in a second because I've got a strong opinion here on this. Right. First of all, if we were to lose to Wolves, you'd have to. I don't know how you could keep this thing going. My only issue with saying like Amorim out if we were to lose to Wolves, because it would be to me an unconscionable? I don't have the right word here. I don't know what it is. It would be an unthinkable loss to lose to Wolves at this point. The only reason it's hard for me to say Amorim out on that basis is that it would make it, I would say Amorim out if we were to lose. But the fact that would let the same players on the pitch who lose to Wolves with a suspended João Gomez, that it would let them off the hook to just play for another manager, to me, that would be just a huge disgrace to all of them, that they get to keep playing at this club. That's the only thing. That's the only thing I will say about that, because I'm not on the it's all one or the other train. It would be an absolute, utter disgrace from those players if they lose to Wolves. I don't give a shit who your manager is, and I feel that way a lot, okay? It would be an utter disgrace. Unbelievable disgrace for any of them. 10 gifted memberships again from Stuart. Good to see you, my friend. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you for that. And there's the 10 gifted memberships as well. Thank you so much. Like, to me, Wolves are so bad. It's like it's incomprehensible. At least at Grimsby, it was Onana, who's not here. It was Fredrickson, who's a kid. You know, it was a lot of that was a part of why we lost. But like, look, yeah, it would just push me even deeper in the direction. Like, it's an inconceivable loss for the manager, but at the same time, it's like, it just would push me even further in the direction of burn this team to the ground. Seriously, burn it to the fucking ground. You know what I mean? That's where it would put me. Sorry, I wanted to acknowledge a couple people here saying some things because I know some of you are catching up on your YouTube recaps and things like that. I missed it. Somebody said 296 videos, whoever that was. Thanks for that. Good Lord. It shocks me the amount of videos that I've made. It kind of feels bad to a degree, but then again, kind of my job now. So Joe Green, thank you for that. Somebody else said they were up there, and I wanted to acknowledge that and say thank you as well. So yeah, it just pushes me. It would just push me further in that direction as well, you know. Which is what it is. You're a top 0.02% viewer, by the way. Thanks, Santiago. Good to see you, and appreciate that as well. So here's what I do want to talk about, though, and I was making this point earlier on Twitter, but people are so upset out of on this Amorim thing that they cannot necessarily think through like the whole. They cannot think through the whole like concept here of what I was trying to say, because I tweeted here, and I've said this before. I've tweeted here about Maresca, because I've always taken a massive issue with the clamor about Maresca being like this big success and the whole Chelsea thing working and all of that. Because I said this, right, that Maresca has gotten 23 senior signings and has spent 621 million euros. United will be level on points with them if they win against Wolves. Right? If we win against Wolves. Maresca has lost to Leeds and drawn to Bournemouth and lost to Ruben Amorim this season, which maybe that's the worst thing on his resume this year, is losing to United. And when you look at that, you go, my point on this is he has 23 players. KG, thanks for joining on the whatever it's called. It just gave me a notification that KG has joined with his viewers. Maybe you just wrapping up a stream. What's up, my friend? Good to see you, KG. I love you. Love you, buddy. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're doing all right.
Do you agree?
I feel like I haven't spoken to you a ton recently. I want Emery or Glasner now. Do you agree? No, absolutely not. Glasner is nothing special. I really like Unai Emery. I really do. I've always really liked Unai Emery. I think he's a wonderful guy. I think he's a wonderful manager. I think he's a great dude. And I think that he's an overachiever. But that doesn't mean he's the right guy. Arnie flop, lol. That doesn't mean that Emery is the right guy for United. I think that doesn't mean, again, people are going to take that as a commentary on our own manager. It's not. Unai is like, KG said, well, thank you guys. Now I see everybody joining here. Appreciate it. The Liverpool hate along redirect. There was a good hate along. Delegate raid. Good to see you guys. I love that. But yeah, look, I think Unai is a really, really good manager. I've liked him for a long time. I think he's a really good manager. I think that United need something maybe a little bit more than that anyway. Though Emery has very, very often fallen at each opportunity to take that next step. I think a club like Aston Villa is the perfect place for him, because not because the expectations are lower, but because he's able to embody his thing, which is to be a guy who elevates one of these clubs that's just below the top level and makes them good. But he's never been able to take that step up at the few different times that he probably has. You know what I mean? So I'm not convinced about Unai. in that respect, even though I really like him. Would he be better than is he better than what we have now? Of course. But that's not really the point, is it? You know, that's not really the point. It's never really the point, you know? It's never really the point. It's more like I want to see, if we were to change managers, or whenever we change managers in the future, you know, I just want somebody who's absolutely like a proven top manager. That's it. Who's won major titles. That's all I want. That's what we need. That's what, you know, still constitutes the most likelihood of success in football if we were to do that. We need like because there's the pressure, it's so much, you know what I mean? It's so much, you know. Plus, that being said, I would be very unhappy seeing Unai get back into the abuse that United managers get from media after how nasty they were to him at Arsenal, and how people were just so mocking of him. Hated it. I thought it was incredibly rude. The way that Amorim was treated before in England, and I almost, for his own sake, I'd rather not see him in the United job. But that's a different story. Fabregas is promising. Why don't you check the scores today? Note why there's no Fabregas hype on the timeline today. Getting thumped 4-0 is not usually a good day for the hype. Again, not that it matters, but it's just how football dialogue goes. So yeah. Anyway, where was I? Where was I at this point? I forgot where I was going with all of this in the beginning. New camera? No, it's just the lighting sometimes shifts and it makes me really dark. Watch. And then the lighting changes. And then, anyway, it's whatever. It's just signed 45 players in 2 seasons. Well, this is what I was going to say. I tweeted this point about Maresca and Chelsea because I get relatively sick. I get relatively sick of seeing the clamor for Chelsea being a success, okay? First of all, Chelsea as a club have won titles in not that long ago. Chelsea as a club have won how many titles since Sir Alex retired? 2 or 3, something like that. But they've won titles in not that long ago. You know, it's not like they've been a failed club for some time. Their starting basis was not that bad. They won the Champions League with this at the same time as the takeover happened. That's like the level that they were at, okay? And then they've done a ton of churn. They've done all of that. And you look at the list of players that they've signed and that Maresca has signed. And I swear to God, man, this Club World Cup thing, the fact people bring that up, that they literally made up a tin pot summer trophy for, you know, good Lord, man. Like, come on, give me a break, right? Like, using this as a huge sign of success for a team that had won Champions League 2 to 3 years earlier, give me a break, right? But this is Maresca's signings that he got. 23 players, 621 million euros. 23 players, 621 million euros. And let's look at the date, for example, right? Before Enzo Maresca had to coach a game, he got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 players in the door. Now, to be fair,
James,
there's 2 goalkeepers there, but they make a difference.
Shit.
Oh, we're going to talk about Tyler. No, I wasn't going to go on about Tyler Adams, to be fair. But look, they had 12 signings in the door. Did I count 12 or 13? I don't remember. 12 signings in the door. 12 signings in the door before Enzo Maresca ever had to coach a game of football in the Premier League. Okay? 12. Now, were they all huge signings? No, but it's still 12. And then add to that the fact here, which is that they also have all these young players at Strasbourg, all over the place to choose from. And you get at Chelsea a situation where you get to sit there and say, let me choose my 25 from the 25 players that I have already, 12 more that I'm going to sign, and then the 36,000 at like Strasbourg and all these other clubs. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying you have a lot of options in order to pick from and shape what you want your squad to be. The next window is even worse in terms of where they are today, because the first 12 was obviously like, these are mid. Now, at the same time, I will say this, saying they're all bad signings or mid signings or this and that, where's the judgment on Enzo Maresca for failing with all of them? Where's the judgment on the manager for not getting the most out of signings like we always ask our managers to do? It's not there. They're allowed to have 0 successes. I think Pedro Neto is the only one that they still use out of all 12 of those. They're allowed to have 0. Use 1 player out of those 12. And what do? They say, all right, fine, didn't work out, we'll go buy you more. So then the next season, 15 million, 35. And this one is even worse, essentially, because if you look at it, these are real players. Garnacho, Hato, Estevao, Gittins, Pedro, Kendry Pais, Esugo, Sar, Liam Delap, and they're most of them are useless. Most of them are useless, right? They haven't gotten, and when I say useless, I mean that Enzo Maresca has not gotten anything out of these players. Out of all this money and all these signings, he's gotten nothing out of them. He's gotten very little. Estevao's their best player. Out of all these signings, Estevao is their best player, right? He's probably the only one you would consider a success. I mean, João Pedro's been decent, but he's kind of fallen off recently. You know, Estevao's the only one. If you go right before that, of course, they broke the record in terms of for Enzo Fernandez in January and Caicedo for a summer as well. The point being on all of this, is that this is what clubs do with the amount that they've spent, with the amount that what I'm talking about here is Maresca has failed. However,
can you share your thoughts on INEOS and Nice? Low-key worried if that's the result of an INEOS.
I'll come back to that, but you do have to realize that Nice had their best finishes the last few years until like they had a rough start, but they actually had some of their 2 best finishes in a long time until INEOS had to divest because of that Europa ruling. INEOS don't run that club right now. They don't really have anything to do with it. Over the last 12 to 18 months, they've had very little to do. In fact, nothing to do with the running of that club. So if anything, it kind of shows the opposite, just to be fair. But I can't honestly say that any of us know enough to pass too much judgment there. My point being, regardless of whether Maresca deserves more criticism, my point's actually different. Hold on a second. My point is different, okay? Here's Arne Slot, all right? Here's Arne Slot. Purchased players, it says 81. Hold on, let me see if I can get just Liverpool only. All right, so he's got 9. He spent 524 million euros, and he took over, of course, a team that was fundamentally way better, right, than what we have, right? A team that was in a much higher position already, of course, than where we were, right? A team that's been competing and around where they wanted to be for titles prior to him taking over. Then they won a title. Then this summer they've spent a lot and all of that. Then you go to Mikel Arteta and look at how much he's gotten right over at Arsenal in terms of rebuilding. 42 players and 1 billion spent. And the only trophy they have, by the way, is an FA Cup at the beginning. But they have successfully turned the team over. There's no denying that, even though they're bottling the league again. Obviously, they have. The point of this is not, they've all failed. They're all failures. They're all failures. They're all this and that makes what we're doing better. That's not what I'm talking about. Look at the level of investment that has been provided by these clubs who were already in a better situation than we were in. Right? All of them had a better starting point. All of them inherited better teams. Maybe not Arteta, but it's been £1 billion since then, right? Maybe it's about comparable, but they've spent $1 billion to turn it over. Okay. No matter what, no matter who is manager at United, and not everything is about Ruben Amorim, no matter who is manager at United, the club must match the resources and ambition of these clubs in providing those resources. We have to, right? We have to turn it over. Right now, like him, hate him, doesn't matter to me. We have a manager in place. Right now, we have a manager in place that we've given 5 senior signings to, right? That we've given 5 senior signings to for a team that was in 14th.
T2 inherited Xhaka, a better
That's
midfield
true, by the way.
than ours.
Xhaka is a better midfield than we have, than anybody in ours. We have a team that was in 14th place, and right now we've only given 5 players, 5 senior signings to a team that was in 14th.
All these managers' present team performances than us. Would you not say all those teams have a better style of play than us?
They totally do. They totally do. They absolutely have a better style of play than us because they have 5 to 10 times as many players signed in order to implement that style of play. You understand that, right? That's my point. Regardless of manager, we're talking about a managerless recruitment model, correct? Let's go back into this and look for a second, all right? We're talking about, forget Ruben Amorim. We're talking about a club. We're talking about a club right now at United that has stated they want to build and implement a style of play, a system of play, a way of playing football that doesn't really have anything to do with the manager, right? It goes beyond the manager. Okay? And we started from a significantly lower point with INEOS. I'm talking about INEOS, right? Because that takeover was not very long ago. INEOS come in not very long ago. It's been really, we've had one full summer. Welcome, Rob. Good to see you, my friend. We've had one full summer with INEOS in place, right? This new ownership, new management. One. Omar arrived halfway through the prior one. Ashworth arrived halfway through the prior one. We've had one full season and one summer of preparation and all of that in terms of where we've taken over, okay? We have a team that is significantly further behind those clubs, significantly further behind when they got in the door. Would you all agree with that? Would you all agree with that? That as a club, we were significantly behind Arsenal, City, Liverpool, and Chelsea when INEOS got going, essentially. Okay? Wilcox was appointed in June, right? That's not a lot. Well, he was appointed, I think, in April or May, actually, but that's still not time to actually prepare for a summer. You do it a whole year ahead of time. It happens over a year. I think everybody would agree that as a football club and as a squad, we are behind, and we started behind all of those clubs. Okay? With how poorly we've invested, how poorly we've spent, because we've been so manager-oriented. We buy for LVG, then we buy for Josie, then we buy for Ollie, then we buy for Ten Hag, and it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and all of that. That's what we did. We started off way behind all of these clubs. Okay? No. I'm saying when we took over. Arsenal were miles ahead of us by the time INEOS took over. Miles ahead of us by the time INEOS took over, right? Miles and miles ahead of us. Now, in order to compete with these clubs, we can't just then spend a little, right? We can't just do the bare minimum. Problem that we had. What was the problem we had? The finances. A genuine issue, right? We had a genuine issue.
The style of play we are presented is not attractive at all. I don't believe it's down to lack of signings, as lower-ranked teams do better with less.
Again, I understand that. I hear your opinion on that. But what really, really goes out the window with that is style of play comes from building a squad of complementary profiles. It doesn't matter how much money you spend. It doesn't even matter the quality of those players necessarily. You need complementary profiles. You look at Brighton, they are manager agnostic. They've played the same way of playing football under Potter, De Zerbi, and whoever their manager is now. It's the same because they have a common thread in the way that they recruit, in the way that they spot players, in the way that they bring talent through, in the way that they do everything. It is manager agnostic. It has been for a long time. Mid-table clubs do that all the time. That's why they can change managers and not that much happens. Okay? But you're talking about, just to be clear, when you're talking about lower ranked teams that do better with less, you're not talking about that many, right? There's very few teams that are actually consistently decent in terms of their style of football. There's quite a few there's very, very few teams that actually are consistently good. West Ham aren't consistently good. Like, most of the teams aren't really consistently good in that respect. So it's not exactly the case. But there are a few teams that in the mid-table and the smaller teams that maintain a decent level of relative success. And it is because of that. They're very, very, very consistent in the way that they recruit and the way that they hire players, the way that they sign them, the way that they build, and they don't flip back and forth so often. And that helps them remain a level of consistency. You know what I'm saying? There is a system and a way that United need and want to recruit so that you have this balance of profiles. Marcus Rashford, who left the club and was there, specifically said, we're always talking about actually rebuilding at United, and then we never do it. We never actually commit to doing something. And it's not even about the manager. It's about we never actually commit to something in terms of a style of play, in terms of a direction. He said it very, very well in his interview, how we constantly bounced between styles. Well, you can't build a style of play without consistency in recruitment and the direction that you're trying to go to match that style of play, right? The style of play on the pitch is absolutely, unbelievably more down to the personnel, the profiles, and the attributes of the player on the pitch than it is the manager. And it's something people just don't get. Pep Guardiola could not play his brand of football that he came into City with if they hadn't already had De Bruyne and Yaya Toure and the incredible amount of technical talent that he had in there. David Silva, he couldn't have done that. He wouldn't be playing the same style of football. He doesn't even play the same style of football now because the attributes of the players have changed. Now, I'm not taking credit away from him because he's an incredible adjuster, but Pep Guardiola's style of play changes based on who he has. Always does. He cannot implement the way he played before with different players. You can't play with Haaland the same way you played with Sergio Aguero. That's why he shifted and adjusted, and they've been amazing at being proactive on that front. He also spent 350 million on left backs. Buy one, sell one, buy one, sell one. But what all of these clubs have been allowed to do, is if they buy a bunch of players that don't work, guess what they do? Nobody's sitting here saying, Enzo Maresca, he failed with João Felix. Let's not buy more players, right? Because it's irrelevant. Nobody's sitting there saying, Enzo Maresca, he failed with Jadon Sancho. Jadon Sancho didn't succeed under him. Let's not buy more players. Look at Vincent Kompany. Yes, exactly. He got relegated with Burnley, and he's doing incredible with Bayern, which nobody thought would happen. It's the best demonstration of the idea that it is the matchup of recruitment with a style that does fit. It's the best example. A manager relegated by Burnley in the Premier League is Bayern's best manager of recent years. It's a lot bigger than that. It's a lot bigger than that. Why couldn't Vincent Company, make Burnley into incredible things? Yeah, because it is what it is. So there's a lot that goes into this, and this is where United are failing. And so we had this problem. We started off significantly worse than all of these clubs, but we couldn't go all out, right? Because of the financial restrictions that we faced, because of all the losses that happened, because of all the wasted money in the prior 3 years, right? We couldn't go all out. They had a championship squad that support Saracen. I think you just made the point. You're just not getting it. Just read it back to yourself. I'm not being facetious. Read it back to yourself. It's not about having a championship squad. It is the quality of squad that you have, the match, the fit, the style that pretty much determines where you're at and how you're going to make it. You can't turn a championship squad into a Premier League squad, and you cannot turn a Frankenstein's monster into a competitive team. It's not going to happen. Okay? It's not going to happen in that respect. So there's a few different ways that you can look at it. But again, I'm not talking about Ruben Amorim. Stop thinking about Ruben Amorim for 2 seconds. And that's all that matters. He spent more than 120 million at Burnley, correct? Yes, we still don't have a good squad. That's the comparison. Exactly. That's exactly what it means. But I'm talking about the squad. That's what we're talking about now, not Ruben Amorim, because he could be sacked tomorrow, and everything I'm saying in this video would still be true. You understand that? Everything I'm saying in this video would still be true if Ruben Amorim was replaced tomorrow. Everything I've said will still be true if Amorim is replaced tomorrow. That's the reality of it. We are still a team that as a squad, as a club, and all of that was well behind all of these clubs when INEOS came in. Then we had the financial concerns.
I for the club and not the manager.
Exactly. Then we had these financial concerns, right? And then now we don't. The books have been balanced, essentially. PSR resolved. PSR gone. So where I sit today when I'm talking about the club itself, where we should be focused on, managers come and go. What I'm focused on with the club and what we need the club to do, which I think is the most important thing here, is go for it. Period. Go for it.
James sent me to a dark place with Tyler Adams.
We have to go for it now. I'm sorry, Cooper. We have to go for it. We can't just do the minimum viable now, okay? I understand there was the financial constraints and considerations and things like that. That was the case, okay? We don't have those anymore. We could go spend 100 million in January and 200 million this summer, and we'd be fine. They have to go for it. What I said about Baleba there on the thumbnail, and what I said in the tweet when I put the for the video, is that my point here is go put the money on the table. Go put the money on the table. Go do something with it. We need a lot more. We were really close to not even getting a keeper this last summer. You realize that, right? Like, we were really, really close to not even getting a keeper this summer. What were we thinking to a degree? You know what I mean? I'm still slightly perturbed and baffled by that idea. Can you fucking imagine if we were still playing with Bayindir and Onana in net right now? I still think personally it's hard to fully judge. People aren't going to agree with this. It doesn't matter. It's hard to fully judge the manager because of the squad. But Imagine if we still had Onana and Bayindir in goal right now. We were a day away from that happening. Can you fucking imagine? I think we could get relegated. Honestly, they're that bad. It isn't, even though our form hasn't been amazing recently, we've lost one game since Lamens came in. One game since Lamens came in. One since he came into the team. True or false, right? He came in one game since Lamens came in. Lamens' loss rate. Lamens' loss rate is 12% as a keeper right now. Our loss rate under Amorim before Lamens is like 50%. Okay, so my point being is that, one, obviously it makes a difference when you change the squad. Obviously, it makes a difference. Players do make a difference. Okay? Players do make a goddamn difference. What a game to lose, I know. It's crazy, right? I like that Lamens stat. But seriously, we have a 12% loss rate under Lamens in net. 12.5%. So obviously players make a difference. There's no doubt about that players make a difference to the team. But I'm saying what I'm talking about is saying it's a good example of the idea, not that Amorim is a good manager. It's irrelevant. We need better players, undoubtedly, and we need to catch up. We can't just trickle along. Look at this league, man. Look at this league. Look at this league. I cannot say in good faith, and I think people would be lying to themselves if they said, if we just change managers, the squad is definitely good enough for top 4. But you know what the truth is? It's not far off. It's not far off at all being good enough for top 4. I think it's maybe 1 or 2 players away. And I think if we went down hard on getting new players, there's no other answer. There's nothing else you can do. You can't sit there and say, well, we're not going to sign players because we're not sure about Amorim. And you can't sit there and say, you just can't. You have to do it anyway. We have to do it anyway. It's just irrelevant, right? It's absolutely irrelevant, right? If Amorim is so shit that we sign new players and we don't actually improve our points totals and we don't get closer to Champions League, then we'll learn that anyway. But the fact is, we have gotten better with signing players. Whether it's good enough is a totally different question. We have gotten better with signing players, and we will get better with signing players. We have to. This is what I've come to the conclusion of. We have not done nearly enough at all. We have not done nearly enough, especially given that the financial handcuffs are essentially gone on the team. We haven't done nearly enough. I don't care who the manager is. I don't care what your thoughts on that. Here, let me give you an example, okay, of how I feel about this, because it's been this way for a long time, right? In terms of my feelings. Whoever is the manager at Manchester United, the club has a responsibility. And it doesn't matter if you rate the manager. It doesn't matter about it. If the manager is in the job, the club have a responsibility, because as long as the manager is in the job, the club are saying he's our manager. The club has the responsibility to give them as many or more resources as the teams that they are supposed to compete against. Okay? That's their responsibility. And I believe that that we need to, I preach this every single day, that we need to be able to think beyond one thing at a time as fans as well, in terms of being able to have rational, good discussions about subjects and relevant discussions about subjects. So long as the manager's in situation, so long as the manager's on the job, the club must give them the resources to compete with everybody else. Ten Hag actually got those resources. He spent as third most, second most in the league. Poorly spent, poorly organized, poorly backed. Very much a club problem in addition to him. Very much a club problem, a disaster of decision making that went with that. I give you a better example though, was Jose Mourinho. When Jose finished his second season, it was like, oh, we've got doubts about Jose. We've got doubts about Jose, despite the fact they just gave him a new contract, the morons, right? This is like the Ed Woodward special, though, right? Which is why I cannot stand the revision of history over Ed Woodward and how things were run in the past. They had doubts about Jose, and so then they said, "Oh, we're not gonna spend money in this summer," and gave him Dowlow, Lee Grant, and Fred after a second place finish. That's what he got. That's what he got. And that finished him at the club. And the thing is that it doesn't matter if they didn't get along with Jose. It doesn't matter if they had doubts about Jose, right?
INEOS don't want to sack him and he doesn't seem able to get the best out of our suboptimal squad.
So fix the suboptimal squad.
Next summer?
Fix the suboptimal squad. Fix the suboptimal squad. That's the answer to your question there. I'm not like yelling at you, but fix the suboptimal squad. You've said it. That's the answer. That's what they can do right now. Fix the suboptimal squad. Amorim's not going to do well with this suboptimal squad. It's not going to be any better than it is right now. It's going to be up and down, back and forth. We're going to be in and around 5th and 8th and 10th and all of that. Okay? See you, Aaron. That's where we are. Okay. He believes it's because of the squad. If they think it's because of the squad and you're not going to sack him, fix the suboptimal squad. That's it. There's nothing that you can do. There's nothing else you can do. That's the only answer to that question. That's the only answer to that problem. You know what I mean? That's all we can do. That's the only thing that can help. Luciano, thanks for. Did you mean to send a message, my friend? But thank you for the donation. If you type a message, I'll read it out. That's all we can do. Right? Be serious. Be serious. We need to be serious. I'm being serious. That's all we can do. If it's not the manager, according to INEOS, which is their stance, and that he deserves more time, what did Jim Ratcliffe say? He thinks it's not Amorim's squad, that he needs at least 2 more windows. Okay. Then do something in those windows. Go for it. Go full out, balls to the walls, take another fishing trip to Iceland. It's cold. Get Wilcox and Omar in a faraway land with nobody around and tell them, the implication is enough. Make it happen. That's all we got to do. It's mob boss time. Bring them out to those frozen rivers with nobody else around and make sure they understand that there's an expectation to give this team some serious reinforcement. Get it done. I don't care. Forget the problems. Forget the problems. Forget the excuses. I'm tired. I'm not going to buy them right now because I genuinely believe, I genuinely believe some of these players may not be available. Some of them may be impossible. But put the money on the table. Put the money on the table. At least make it happen. At least show us, right, that you're trying fully. I'm serious. They might be. You might talk to agents and they go, don't know. They're not really wanting to sell right now. I don't send a bid. Send the bid. Right. I look at Carlos Baleba. Okay. I look at Carlos Baleba right now. All right. No, what I'm mocking is, you guys know the video of the Liverpool kid, who's like, I'm being serious. I don't do whatever. That guy, that's just, it pops in my head every time I say serious, and I can't help myself. It's not a good accent, but is there such a thing as a good Scouse accent? I don't know. Anyway, I look up Baleba and I say, first of all, most of the other clubs have turned their heads to other options, notably Elliot Anderson. We're already going to be in a dogfight. We're already going to be in a dogfight to go for someone like Elliot Anderson. We have to be able to compete with them in order to get that. But everybody is, he was saying Mane is the best in the world. I'm being serious. We're going to be in a dogfight for guys like Elliot Anderson. Sadio Mane is the best in the world. What you laughing for? I'm being serious. Yeah, I got the accents confused there. But yeah, that's the one. I just can't get it out of my head now. It's going to repeat for the next 2 hours. Sorry about that. But yeah, we have to, we're going to be heavily competing for guys like Elliot Anderson this summer. A lot of the other clubs have already turned their heads. We've heard some stories from Germany about Bayern sniffing around Baleba, things like that. Maybe test Brighton. Test Brighton. And say, what about 80 million right now? Yeah, I got halfway between Irish there. It got very weird. It got very weird. Test him. Put 80 million on the table and say, no one else is going to buy him for this price. He's not starting most weeks. What do you think? Why not? Why not do it? Test him. Regardless of how it works out, what United have to do is provide the resources to whoever is in the position to compete with these other clubs. If you're going to ask right now,
we
right?
Just need energetic, press-resistant midfielders.
Yes, exactly, Humphrey. Exactly. Right now, we're sitting here, most all of us, wherever you stand on this, we're all doing it. I'm sitting here every week going, it's crap. Football's crap. We suck. Am I making it all about the manager myself? No, I'm not. But at the same time, I'm looking at it and saying, as owners right now and as executives right now, you're letting the manager take the fall and all the heat for a suboptimal squad, and he's losing the fans every week. And he's losing the fans. And he's losing support, and it's getting worse every week. And people are getting more testy. People are getting more agitated. People are getting more impatient, even those who are supporters, even those who back the manager, You're losing them. You're making it impossible for the manager to succeed. Because if you believe that it is a squad issue, as you do, as the executives in charge right now, as bluntly stated by Sir Jim, You have to do something about it then. Because it will reach a point. I don't think that like it's necessarily like, oh, fans clamoring. I think at the moment it's still a bit of panic and a bit of clamor. And when we win, it goes away. And, you know, as soon as we have a bad result, you know, it's 833,000 pictures of Kabi Menu. But it threatens to get worse. It threatens to get worse. But it's more a matter of principle. You as a club and as executives, I want you to take a perspective. Those of you who are fully Amorim out right now who are here, right? Those of you who are fully Amorim out here for a second, I want you to take a perspective just for a moment, okay? I want you to take a perspective just for a moment on something from the from management, okay? And looking at management for a second. They're on record as saying it's not a good enough squad. It's not Amorim's team. We only have a few players. What we're asking you to do and where we feel is achievable is to get back into Europe. So long as Amorim is on track for that, okay? So long as Amorim's on track for that, if they sack him, it's an incredibly poor reflection on them, actually. Because proper leadership, sorry, my camera's just being fuzzy, or it's my eyes, I don't know, maybe I'm losing my mind. Because proper management and leadership would be setting out realistic expectations and goals and sticking to them. That would be the reality of it. It would be setting those things out and sticking to them.
I'm a pro Muppet apparently.
Thanks, Shinja, appreciate it. Welcome. That would be proper executive management. You have to set out realistic expectations, provide the resources to accomplish that, and then stick to those expectations, not vary them and change them based on the way that the wind is blowing. Okay? That's that's what they laid out from their perspective. If they say to a manager, all right, you know what, you need to get this. This is your goal. We know it's not your squad. We know we didn't sign you a midfielder. We know we did this. We know all of that. So this is what's realistic. If he's accomplishing that, it reflects incredibly poorly on them to sack him. However, if it's just not good and you leave it like that, and you let it spiral without helping the situation, you're also completely culpable for that. I don't think that INEOS can sack Ruben Amorim without buying more players for him. Based on everything that they've said, based on their whole plan, based on everything they've laid out, it would be disgusting management, in my opinion, that would reflect really poorly to do anything without giving him more players based on your own principles, your own ideas, your own words, and your own commitments. What's up, Andy? How you doing, buddy? Hope you enjoyed the hate along. Okay? Because you said this is what's possible. Not for him, it's for the club, but he's in situ at the moment. You would have to put more players into the club at his disposal to use to make that kind of change. And that's why they're not going to change it, because they do tend to stick to their word on that front. I do think they tend to stick to their word on that front. If he's not given more players, this is what I've said before, like, they have to do something in January. Because even if we finish 5th or 6th this season, you're going into Amorim's last year, we're all going to have questions. We're all going to have questions. Well, none of us are going to be convinced with how it's going presently. And then you're going to enter into the next season with doubts and things like that. No, I'm not saying give him a new contract regardless of this season. What I'm saying is buy new players ASAP. It's not, I don't think it is earning the right to get players. Here's what I'm saying. Like, think about that statement, Luciano. Like, just think of it a little bit differently. Okay? If you hire a manager and you say, we've given you a 7th place squad, and he gets 7th, he has earned the right for more players because he's done exactly what you've asked him to do. Achieved the level of the squad that you've laid out. You may not, I'm saying that from their perspective, he has earned the right to more players. If he finishes lower, you still need more players because the next manager hopefully doesn't inherit an 8th place squad or a 14th place squad, which is what it was. You know, you still need to do it either way. But I'm saying he has earned the right to more players if he is matching their accomplishments. So they can't sit in the middle, right? Based on their own standards, their own line of thinking, their own logic, their own plan, their own everything. You have to either sack the manager or improve the squad. You cannot sit in the middle no matter what. Actually, you know what I'm saying about this? That's not even true. It's not or. You have to improve the squad. Unless you believe the squad is good enough, you have to improve the squad. But you can't sit in the middle and say, well, we won't sign players because we're not sure on the manager. Impossible. That's death. That's death. We've done that before. That's Glazer thinking. That's Woodward excuses. We've done that. We've done that before. That's where we're at. If they did get him, say, a wingback and a lone player for the midfield, and we still don't make Europe, yeah, he'll be sacked. He'll be sacked. If he gets more players and we don't improve, he'll be sacked. It's that simple. He'll go. That's very, very easy. It's a very easy thing. The squad ain't 7th place, though. Why are you making out like the squad is bad? It's easily top. Yeah, how? Look at look at the comparisons. You're saying that if you're saying it's easily top 4, you're saying that we've recruited and built a better team than one of Arsenal, City, Liverpool, or Chelsea. And that's not discussing Newcastle or Tottenham, who are, I don't know. It's not easily top 4. We haven't had easily top 4 level of recruitment in a long time. Not in a long time. Not in a long time. It's for sure not easily top 4. I don't know how anybody can say that it would be easily top 4. This squad that we have right now. I think our squad, especially once you move beyond the first 11, our squad is better than Chelsea. That's crazy. Their midfield is Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, and Caicedo. Please. 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 Look at their midfield. And look at the amount of depth that they have. And look at the amount of players that they have. We probably have, when fit, a top 3, front 3, maybe top 4, front 3. 100%, I agree with that. I rate them really, really highly. I think we have a number of good defenders. And I think we have maybe the 4th or 5th best keeper now. A solid keeper. I don't know about 4th or 5th best, but a solid keeper. We have one of the worst midfield in the league. We easily top 4. Are we easily better than Crystal Palace, even man for man? I know, we're not. We're not. I assume you're agreeing with me because we're not. We don't even have a better team than Crystal Palace. We don't even have a genuinely, for sure, better team than Crystal Palace. That's the crazy part. In a few, we have probably 6 or 7 better players and about 4 or 5 worse. It's like, it's not even that obvious. We've got the bozo virus. We got the bozo virus. But regardless, either way, Either way, we have to add players to it. And either way, ownership and management have to show up now. They have to show up now. They have to show up and say, we've got to build something. We've got to put something together. Oh man, I wish I could I wish I could highlight comments on there. Bruno Casemiro Mano is better than Enzo Palmer Caicedo. It's fine. It's trolling. It's trolling. It's trolling. It's trolling. It's all good. It's all good. It's trolling. It's trolling. Trolling. Fine. It's definitely trolling. It's definitely trolling. All right. So that's all. That's really all I wanted to talk about today. That's it. That's all I really wanted to talk about today. You know, I want to cover all the issues. And these are the issues.
Are you still a Baleba? He seems to be back.
Well, that's where I'm at. I have a feeling maybe he is someone we could get. That we could put our money down on the table and figure it out for January. That we could force their hand. That's my feeling on Baleba right now. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. That's why I mentioned Baleba. That's why I put him on the thumbnail. I'm like, maybe he's the one we could make work. Maybe he's the one we could do something with. So anyway, that's where I'm at. Those are my feelings on the matter. I really want to see us have ambition. I want to see us go for it. Like I said, when you look at it, in the way that it is, we need to do a hell of a lot more. And with the financial shackles off, with the things that we've done, with the things that we've done in the market, in the finances, with the things that we've done to balance the books, with the reduction and all of that on PSR, with our squad cost ratio being very, very good, there's no excuses. We need to provide whoever our manager is with more resources than anybody else in the league. That's the responsibility of the club. I don't give a shit who the manager is. The finances are taken care of. The finances are balanced. INEOS have come in and balanced the books and fixed a lot of the bullshit that we've done before. We have to be able to provide whoever's the manager and the team with more or equal resources to anyone else in the league, period. Anything less than that is a failure. Because this is supposed to be the biggest club in England. It is the most valuable club in England. It has the biggest fan base in England. It should have the highest revenues in England. With all sorted, with Champions League, it would. We supposedly want to build the biggest stadium in England, be the greatest club again in England. We have to be able to provide and create the best team, the best squad, and have the most resources. Okay? That's it. I'm going to leave you with that. I've got to go. I'll see you all later. I'll be back tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Think on it. Agree with me. And everything will be fine. Just kidding. But I'll see you guys tomorrow, okay? Have a good one, everybody. Good night.